Every single photograph you have ever seen of a football legend lifting the iconic World Cup trophy from the 1960s is a complete lie. The golden statue sitting behind bulletproof glass in the museums, the one guarded by maximum security and insured for millions of dollars, it is a fake. A desperate, hastily made replica designed to hide one of the most embarrassing and deeply buried cover-ups in international sports history. And the real trophy, the original gold prize that Pelé and Bobby Moore bled on the pitch for, it is gone, erased from existence in a terrifying underground crime that the football authorities spent decades trying to make you forget. Let us be entirely honest here. If you were the English Football Association in 1966, hosting the biggest tournament on the planet, and you somehow managed to lose the single most important object in the history of sports, you would panic too. You would do absolutely anything to hide your incompetence from the world. It was March 20th, 1966. Just months before the World Cup was set to kick off in London, the legendary Jules Rimet trophy, the undisputed holy grail of global sports, was put on display at a public exhibition. The security was supposed to be absolutely flawless, but during a quiet Sunday afternoon, while the guards were taking a break to attend a church service, someone slipped into the building. They ignored millions of dollars worth of rare stamps sitting right next to it and went straight for the ultimate prize. In a matter of minutes, the World Cup simply vanished into thin air. What followed was absolute, unadulterated chaos. Scotland Yard was completely humiliated. The entire country of England became an international laughingstock overnight. The official story, the one they still teach in the history books today, is that a cute little dog named Pickles miraculously sniffed out the trophy, wrapped in an old newspaper under a hedge a week later. The whole world smiled, applauded the heroic dog, and quickly moved on. But that is exactly what the authorities wanted you to do, because while the global media was busy taking pictures of Pickles the dog, the panicked officials at the Football Association were meeting in total secrecy. They knew they could never risk this level of embarrassment again. So, operating completely behind closed doors and without the knowledge of FIFA, they secretly hired a master jeweler named George Bird. His instructions were clear, technically illegal, and absolute. He was ordered to forge an exact identical replica of the World Cup. He was sworn to secrecy, forbidden from telling his family or the press. For decades, this fake trophy was the one paraded around at official events, kissed by legendary players, and broadcasted to millions of completely oblivious fans. But this secret forgery was just the beginning of a much darker nightmare, because the people who ultimately got their hands on the real World Cup did not care about football history. Let us fast forward to 1970. The legendary Brazilian national team, led by Pelé, wins their third World Cup. According to the rules of the time, the first nation to win 3 titles gets to keep the original Jules Rimet trophy permanently. So, the real, solid gold masterpiece travels across the Atlantic to Rio de Janeiro, while the fake replica remains hidden in a dusty vault back in London. For 13 years, the Brazilian Football Confederation displays the ultimate symbol of their athletic dominance in their headquarters. But there was a fatal flaw, a mistake so unbelievably arrogant that it almost feels deliberate. Think about it for a second. If you possessed an irreplaceable, priceless global treasure, how would you protect it? You would probably lock it inside a massive, impenetrable steel vault, right? But the officials in Brazil, they placed the real, original World Cup inside a wooden cabinet. Yes, a wooden cabinet. It was secured by a single piece of bulletproof glass, but the frame holding that glass was made of ordinary, easily breakable wood. It was an open invitation to the criminal underworld. And if you are already subscribed to this channel, you know that whenever authorities leave a blind spot in history, we uncover exactly who exploited it. But what happened on the night of December 19th, 1983, goes far beyond a simple robbery. It was a calculated, devastating erasure of history. Late that night, a small crew of professional thieves infiltrated the Brazilian Football Confederation building, They overpowered the single-night watchman, tied him up, and walked straight up to the exhibition room. They did not need explosives. They did not need advanced laser-cutting equipment. They simply used a common steel crowbar to pry open the wooden back of the display case. In a matter of seconds, the true World Cup, the exact same trophy that survived the Second World War hidden in a shoebox under a bed in Italy, was gone again. But this time, there was no cute little dog waiting to find it under a bush. This time, it was taken by ruthless men who looked at the ultimate symbol of global sporting achievement and saw nothing but raw, meltable scrap metal. The Brazilian police launched a frantic, nationwide manhunt. The borders were completely sealed. Millions of dollars in rewards were offered to anyone with information. The entire country practically stood still, holding its breath, hoping for a miracle. But days turned into weeks, and the silence from the criminal underworld was absolutely deafening. The authorities grew desperate. They started interrogating known cartel members, shaking down local gangs, and searching every dark corner of Rio de Janeiro. What the detectives eventually uncovered during a violent raid would crush the hearts of millions of fans. They found the hideout. They found the heavy-duty melting equipment. But the gold itself? It was already transforming into something completely unrecognizable. The ultimate prize was vanishing forever, but the people who actually bought that melted gold, well, that is a dark secret the authorities never wanted you to know. The police investigation in Rio de Janeiro eventually led them to an underground gold dealer named Juan Carlos Hernandez. He was an Argentinian national with deep ties to the black market. When the heavily armed detectives finally kicked down the steel doors to his secret foundry, they were completely devastated by what they found. Or rather, what they did not find. They were too late. The magnificent Jules Rimet trophy, the exact object that survived a global war and defined generations of football legends, had been brutally sliced into pieces and melted down in a high-temperature crucible. It was turned into anonymous, rectangular gold bars. It was sold off piece by piece to the highest bidders in the criminal underworld. The ultimate prize in sports history was likely turned into cheap street necklaces, illegal luxury watches, and maybe even gold teeth. The authorities quickly arrested the mastermind behind the heist, a man simply known to the streets as Mustache, along with his accomplices. They were tried, convicted, and thrown into a brutal Brazilian prison. The case was officially closed by the government. The history books recorded the tragic, pathetic end of the original World Cup, and the world was forced to accept it. But this is exactly where the story takes a terrifying, mind-bending turn. What if I told you the history books are completely wrong? What if the trophy that was melted down in that dirty underground foundry was never the original to begin with? Let us go all the way back to England, 1970. Before the trophy was officially handed over to the Brazilian national team for keeping it permanently, it was sitting quietly in a secure bank vault in London. Remember that flawless, highly illegal secret replica made by the master jeweler George Bird? The English Football Association still had it locked away, terrified that the press would discover their elaborate forgery. But a growing number of investigative journalists and rogue football historians have recently uncovered a chilling theory, a theory that the global football authorities absolutely refuse to acknowledge to this day. What if, in a moment of sheer panic, before handing the ultimate prize over to the Brazilians, the English officials intentionally mixed them up? What if they deliberately kept the real, solid gold masterpiece hidden away in the United Kingdom and sent the worthless, gold-plated replica across the ocean instead? Think about the massive implications of that for just a second. The armed thieves in Brazil might have risked absolutely everything, committing the daring heist of the century, only to melt down a fake piece of metal. They might have gone to prison for destroying a cheap replica. And if that is true, if the violent Brazilian cartel was actually tricked by a 30-year-old English cover-up, then where exactly is the real, priceless Jules Rimet trophy right now? Decades after the master jeweler George Bird passed away, his family was clearing out his estate. Deep in the attic, hidden away from the world, they discovered a dusty, unlabeled box, and when they opened it, they could not believe their eyes. Inside that dusty, unlabeled box was a golden trophy, an absolutely flawless, identical twin of the Jules Rimet masterpiece. The Bird family, completely stunned, put it up for public auction in 1997. And do you know who aggressively outbid every single billionaire and private collector on Earth to buy it? FIFA. The governing body of world football secretly paid over $300,000 for it, a price more than 10 times higher than its estimated value. Why would they do that? Because they were absolutely terrified. They desperately needed to know, once and for all, if the English had tricked them back in the 70s. They needed to test if this forgotten object in a London attic was actually the real, solid gold prize that survived the Second World War. They rushed the trophy to a highly secure laboratory. They ran advanced chemical analysis on the metal, and the final results were completely devastating. It was brass. It was just a masterfully crafted fake, which means the horrifying, undeniable truth was finally confirmed. The Brazilian thieves in 1983 did not steal a cheap replica. They stole the real, irreplaceable soul of global football history. They literally melted down the exact gold that was kissed by Pelé. The very same metal that nations fought over was turned into anonymous bars and sold for quick cash on the underground black market. The greatest sporting artifact in human history did not end up in a glorious, heavily guarded museum. It was completely destroyed in a dirty, underground oven by street criminals who did not even care about the beautiful game. Today, when you watch the modern World Cup final, the trophy those players are crying over and lifting into the sky is just a replacement. It is a beautifully designed, multi-million-dollar piece of metal that has absolutely zero physical connection to the original legends of the sport. The true legacy was brutally erased, and the authorities spent decades and millions of dollars trying to make sure you never realized what was truly lost. Let me ask you something. When you look at that shiny new trophy during the next tournament, will you ever be able to look at it the same way, knowing the original is gone forever? History is written by the winners, but it is covered up by the cowards in suits. We do not just tell safe stories on this channel. We dig up the uncomfortable truths, the canceled matches, and the dark secrets that multi-billion-dollar organizations are desperate to keep buried. Do not let them erase history. Hit that subscribe button right now, turn on the notifications, and join the investigation, because what we are uncovering next will change the way you look at football forever.